thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. As a leader, what matters to you?
I think what matters to me as a leader is to make sure that as a new company commander that I bring the company along with me, that to change this ethos of being a team rather than a leader being somebody who heads it all.
Okay, and what values are really important to you? Because as leaders, we need to kind of understand, in order to make decisions and to know the direction in which we're going in, we need to have very strong values. So what are the values that matter the most to you?
I think the two values that mean the most to me, Sarah, are probably honesty and integrity.
Okay.
You know, above everything else.
So why are honesty and integrity so important?
I think, you know, to be honest with yourself, but also to be honest with others, and more importantly, to have honesty with your cadets. You know, it's with any kind of training, with any event that you're doing, to never promise a cadet something that you can't deliver on. And with integrity, it's all right to make a mistake as long as you've got the integrity to put your hand up and say, you know what, I made a mistake, or it was me.
So important, so important. So listen, you've been in the ACF for 36 years, which you told me a couple of days ago, which is most of my life. I'm a little bit older than 36, but I was absolutely blown away by this. I've been in for 12 years, which I was quite impressed with, but 36 years is quite something. I just want to understand a little bit about your story, about how you started in the ACF and how you've gone all the way through. You've obviously been RSM as well in Lancashire ACF, and now you're a company commander, and we'll talk about that in a few moments' time. But I just want to know your ACF story.
Okay, so at the age of 12, it was a neighbour that knocked on our door because he used to hear me practice the flute in my bedroom. And he asked my dad, would I go and teach the flute to a bunch of lads at Full Barracks in Preston? So I went down in my school uniform and for a couple of years, just on a Wednesday night, taught them the flute. But girls weren't allowed to join in Lancashire then. It wasn't until about 86 that they started letting girls in. And because I'd been there and seen what they did at night times, I'm like, I don't want to wear green, I'm not joining. And then they all went away on a summer camp and I weren't allowed to go because I wasn't in. So I thought, that's it, papers are in. Went and joined. And, you know, became a 4-star cadet, became an adult instructor as soon as I'd done my 4-star, more or less, because I was 18 and they were very still in 1990 wanting females to join. So I became an adult instructor, worked in a detachment, went on to be a detachment commander, been a CSM, done different roles like CVQ officer, went on to be RSM, so I was the RSM of Lancashire for a couple of years, and then since then been a 2IC and now a company commander.
So you're really a pioneer within our organisation, and you were one of the first women to join as a cadet. And that's really something, isn't it? And you're still with us.
I am. And in all them years, I've only ever missed one annual camp. So
that's look, you know, thank you. And I'm just thinking of all of the lives that you must have changed in that 36 years of you being part of the ACF family. And I suspected that you probably don't think about that a lot, but the number of young people's lives that you will have changed in those years is quite something. So thank you for that. So obviously you became RSM, and then the natural progression, of course, was to become an officer and commission. So,
yeah.
So the natural question for me, because what we really want to do in the IOT is to promote the commissioning route, so that people can go out there and start to make an even bigger difference to our organisation. So naturally, I would kind of ask you, you know, why did you choose to commission? But obviously, it was the natural route for you. So I'm going to turn that question around and ask you, why would anybody want to commission?
I think in this day and age now in the ACF, being the role of an officer is very, very different to what it used to be. When I think back to when I was a colour sergeant, even a sergeant major, that there were some officers that were very different within the ACF. Now when you commission as an officer, it's the role of like a young officer. So you're still a detachment commander. You can still do the fieldcraft exercises with the cadets. You're still involved with training. It's not a pen pushing exercise in an officer anymore. I think I was lucky enough to commission through the IOT, even though it was the second phase of it, that there is a lot more time invested in you. There's a lot more training invested within a new officer coming in. So it's not just Westbury and get on with it. It's now the whole going to Sandhurst, having your confirmation weekend. It's around doing the modules or the training and assessment weekend, where you're looking at your own development really more and how that fits in with the ACF. And it's a very new, a modern ACF now.
I 100% agree with you, and it's really positive to hear that. So people are naturally worried about, so clearly the commissioning process, because going to Westbury is the most incredible experience, but it's challenging. But when you knew that you were going to go down the officer route, what really worried you about commissioning? So not just the Westbury thing, but beyond that, what was your what was your real worry about becoming an officer?
Well, apart from the green boiler suits at Westbury, I think the thing that bothered me more than anything was the commitment really to the training. Yes, I had 20 modules to do. It was all online back then.
This is the IOT.
Yes, for IOT. So it's very different now. You've got the 2 weekends that you can do, and you put all what you're learning into practice. So it's not like it's what you're learning you can put into your detachment, you can put into the role that you're doing, whether you're doing a 2ICs role, whether you're doing a detachment role or a county role. So I think with everything that you learn, you can see how that's put into practice. So, how your vision of becoming a leader changes as you learn about leadership as well. So how you manage men, how you manage cadets, how you manage situations, it all changes, and everything that you learn, you can put into practice with that.
Okay, so you came to us very early on in the kind of development of the IOT, but you were also really privileged to be part of Lancashire ACF at the time, when now Director IOT, Colonel Neil Jurd was Commandant, and the kind of direction that the IOT is now going in is very similar to the direction that he put in place at Lancashire ACF, and those leadership models that we are now using in the IOT, that come from his background and from his experience. So you've kind of had the best of both worlds, haven't you? So you went through the IOT, and then you had all of this leadership training under Colonel Neil. So so just briefly explain to me how the IOT, and then also that leadership experience that you gained under Neil has impacted your leadership style and your leadership ability now.
I think with the IOT, I got to meet a lot of people in the same boat as me. So that we were all going through it together. We were all learning together. When we did our weekend at Sandhurst, met some amazing people from around the country that I'm still in contact with, that we still bounce ideas off each other. It's about not reinventing the wheel. For instance, we were going on an annual camp to Beckenham, and we'd never been there, but other people had. So they sent me routes through for walking, and they sent different things through and information. So, the connections that you make through IOT will carry you on throughout your ACF career. I think for me, what I learned through leadership was all the different parts of how a team works, how a new leader works, how all that can be put into practice. Neil was a commandant at the time, very new team in the senior leadership team, and I'd just become an officer. So, it was learning about all that norming, storming and forming, how people work, how to bring people along with you, where probably if I'd have done it 10 years ago, I would have probably been a very different officer, more of a manager, more of a man manager, do this, do that, it's my way or the highway type thing. So I think the whole thing has evolved massively. And I was probably glad of when I commissioned, because I think it has definitely made me a better officer. Do I know everything? No, because we're still learning. But yeah, it's definitely given me a better path and I've become a company commander. So yeah.
Okay, so with all that in, considering all of that, and you now being able to go out as a better but probably more confident officer as well, but also let's not forget you've got all of this experience, you've been the RSM, so you were clearly a great leader, but what you've now got is all of these tools and techniques that you've picked up, so you understand why people might be doing the things that they're doing and the decision-making process, etc., etc. What's been your biggest challenge? And I'd love you to be really honest about this. What has been your biggest challenge since you commissioned and became an officer, and now you're obviously a company commander? What's been really difficult?
Probably the speed that it's happened. I went to Westbury, instantly became a 2IC of a company, a different company, settled into that role, thoroughly enjoyed the role, and then, within 2 years into it, was asked to take a company commander position of another company. So that was, within 3 years, I was in 3 different companies. And within this role now, it's not about being a leader of a new company. It's about being able to take that team with me on this journey and being able to put into practice everything that I've learned, and even, everything that I'm still learning as well.
So you talk about taking your team on a journey, which is lovely, isn't it? Because we're all in it together, and it creates this beautiful picture in your mind. So what things are you doing to be able to take that team on the journey with you? Because it's not always easy to. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and taking her out on a journey just 2 miles round the corner. Getting her to follow me because she's so desperate to go and do her own thing. And I'm not saying that, the members of your company are like 5-year-old children, because they won't be, or they might be, I don't know. But, how do we get people to follow us on that journey?
I think all your staff are different. They're all at different places, and they're all, at different parts of their journey as well. And it's about, making sure that they know what the ethos of the county is, what do we want to achieve as a county? How do I get to roll that down to the company? How do I get them on board? And it's about making sure that everybody's got roles within the company, whether you're a detachment member of staff, whether you're part of a detachment commander, or even part of the company staff. It's about making sure that everybody has a role, and that also that when people come to you with an idea, that you take on board what they're saying. It doesn't matter what rank they are, they might still be able, they can still run a 1-star training event on a weekend. They can still put together the plans for a shooting day. Everybody's got to find their niche, and to allow people to grow, gain qualifications, to be able to spread their wings and say, you know what, this is the route that I'm going to take within the ACF.
Okay, so it's about making sure that your vision's really clear, so that people know the journey that you're going on, allowing people to feel empowered by understanding what the vision is, but then finding what their role is in that vision. So it's not just, right, here I am, follow me. It's here I am, and this is my vision. Let's do it together, because we need all of that talent in the team, empowering people to be part of that, but identifying what people's talents are as well.
Yeah, so, if one of your member of staff wants to go down the shooting route, they want to do shooting qualifications, if a member of staff wants to commission and become an officer, it's about how to work with them to gain them qualifications or gain the experience. Or if they've just done like a shooting qualification, get them now to put together a shooting day or a shooting event on a weekend, and be able to put all that knowledge that they've learned into practice more. Because I can remember years ago, I used to turn up on a weekend, was told what to do and got on with it. Where now it's about having that time and investment into what the bigger picture is really.
So, with all that in mind, you know, we one of the things that we try to do in the ACF is balance our ACF life with our normal life. That doesn't always happen, does it? You know, it's a constant balancing act. But one of the things that we want to achieve in the IoT is to ensure that all of these skills and this self-confidence that we're passing on to people, they're able to use in their lives outside the ACF as well. So I just wanted to know that not just your experience with the IoT, but also your experience now as a senior leader within your county and within the ACF. What have you learned about yourself that you're using outside of the ACF? What do you know now about yourself that you perhaps didn't know before?
I think I know now what type of leader I am and what type of leader I want to be. I was very lucky that when I was doing the IoT and when I was doing the leadership training that Colonel Neil put on within the county, that I was going through a transformation at work. So we were going into a new team. I'd just become a team leader of a new district. So I'd just taken over at the north of the county. So it was about putting everything I'd learned through the cadets and through the IoT, I was putting into practice within my day job as well, to be able to establish a new team, look at the new staff, look at how to move them forward, understand with that team as well, the storming, norming and forming of building a new team, because it was a team of 64 staff. So it was quite a large team to be pulling together. So even with everything that I learned on the IoT and through the leadership courses, I could put in practice in my day job as well. So it was really good. And even if you're not a manager within your day job, you know, all these skills and abilities that you learn through the IoT now are excellent experiences for future time, you know, for your future life and your future job moving forward.
Absolutely, and we know that people via the IoT have gone back into their work environment and have been promoted, or they might have had a job before that they were feeling really frustrated with, but now they're not, because they're they understand it more and they're able to push themselves forward with their ideas. So the impact is great, and that means absolutely the world to us. So I just wondered, finally, before we kind of wrap this up, well, two questions really. The first question is, what's your vision now? So you've become company commander really quickly, which is not unusual, is it? And I have to say, it was something that happened to me personally, and I found it quite challenging at the time. And I wish I knew then what I know now, having been part of the IoT myself. But where do you want to go next?
Well, I only took over as a company commander last year, so it was just during our annual camp. So, you know, a good couple of years of doing the company commander role. I feel I'm only at the beginning of the journey, and obviously that journey is on pause at the moment because of the lack of weekends and training that we're doing. So it's going to be a big job to pick this back up after lockdown's finished and normality resumes. So yeah, I think definitely a deputy commandant in a few years, and then commandant. So
I think you're going to do it.
I am. I'm a Lancashire girl, and I'll be staying here for a while, so I don't think I'll be moving.
Well, we can't wait to see you as deputy commandant, as commandant as well, because you know that's again what we want to do with the IoT, is that we're building these people who are going to be the future senior leaders of our organisation, and take it forward so that we can do even more amazing things with our cadets. Was there anything else that you wanted to say to people who are either at the moment considering commission, or or have just commissioned, or maybe kind of sitting there now going, oh, you know, I've become an officer, but I'm feeling really uneasy about it? Have you got one piece of advice that you would pass on to people?
Talk to people who have been there and done that, who have gone through the IoT system, or that are going through the IoT system if you're wanting to become an officer. And, you know, you've got a fantastic platform on social media, on Facebook and Twitter. listen to people who are doing it, ask them questions that, you know, whether you know them or not. If anybody messaged me about the IoT or about commissioning, I'd answer them and I'd give them an honest answer. So, you know, if you ask, don't just sit there thinking that could be me. Do something about it and become one of our next officers and one of our next leaders of the future.
Wenda, we're so proud of you. Thank you so much for talking to me this evening. It's lovely to see the direction that you're heading in, and I'm just, it just feels great that we've played a really small part in that. So thank you so much.